Everyone, welcome to Cinema Safari. Today we're jumping into the world of AI with Mercy. So Mercy was directed by Timur Bekmambetov, and it stars Chris Pratt as a police detective and Rebecca Ferguson as an AI judge. In the law system that is used in the film. So there's a lot to talk about, a lot of great concepts in the film. I'm excited to get right into it. So join us in the world of AI as we talk about Mercy. So Mercy is a big film that, you know, the times we're in, being with AI being such a big thing right now in the world, especially having such a huge impact over the past like 6 months or a year, um, especially in the entertainment industry and a lot of areas in the entertainment industry, both with acting and just in general. So having a movie that's kind of AI centric, or at least having concepts in the film be heavily revolved with AI is definitely a big thing for where we're at kind of in the world right now and within the industry. So definitely a big thing to have, big thing to talk about. So in the film, we see Chris Pratt. He is wrongfully accused for murder for his wife, and well, he's accused of murdering his wife, so he's put on trial. And in the film, you have 90 minutes to prove your innocence, and then if you can't, you're found guilty. So he is falsely accused of murdering his wife, so he has 90 minutes to um, prove his innocence, and that's pretty much what the film is revolved upon. So for me personally, I enjoyed the film. I will say that the storyline of the film, like it definitely had some interesting concepts in it, and um, there was definitely stuff there that could have been better, in my opinion. The story wasn't anything too special. It was very familiar, I would say, in terms of like how the plot went, what we could expect. Like wasn't anything like new or really like super exciting besides like adding kind of AI to the story, that kind of concept, because it had a nice kind of touch with kind of like the real world and where we're at with AI. So that um, similarity was interesting. But as far as like the plot went, it was very similar to I would say like The Fugitive with Harrison Ford, Tommy Lee Jones. That film didn't have AI, obviously, but just like being falsely accused for murder, having to prove your innocence, that kind of thing. We seen it before, so it didn't. Well, there wasn't anything new that we were getting to see, really, if you're familiar with those types of films. So in that sense, it wasn't great. Not that it was bad, but it just wasn't anything new or exciting, fresh that um, we could really expect. Having seen like The Fugitive and other films like that in the past, it definitely felt very similar to those types of films. So it was still enjoyable, but it didn't really add anything new in that sense. As far as the acting goes, Chris Pratt, I thought he was pretty good. Rebecca Ferguson as the AI judge, very interesting character. She didn't have too much depth with the character, but that might have also been in terms with just the writing, maybe, and like just the way they developed the story, not having, and the character in general, like not having, being able to do too much with the character because it's an AI judge. I don't know, like how far they could go with that character based on the story they told. Um, so yeah, she didn't have too much depth, but I thought she still did really well with it, with what she, the character was. So I guess that's my kind of 2 cents on the characters. As far as like the world went, it was very interesting to watch, very cool aesthetic. Very similar feel to like past movies like, RoboCop, Blade Runner, certain aspects of it to those kinds of movies. Minority Report. Although that one maybe more like the storyline, I guess, but I don't know. But still, I think that like the looks of the film were kind of better than the story of the film in terms of what we, were expecting, what we got. Um, there were definitely aspects in the film that were kind of missed. Like there were definitely set up to do certain things that didn't come through, and also things that I think they could have like some missed opportunities for sure. Like it was well made, but it just felt too hollow, predictable, and there was definitely the premise was there, but there just wasn't too much depth in the story. So it was very predictable in that sense. And for those reasons, I think that a lot of people didn't necessarily enjoy as much, didn't do as well because of those reasons. For me personally, I definitely agree with that. Definitely was very predictable. I still enjoyed it. I didn't have any like too many problems watching it for what it was. I didn't expect necessarily too much going into it. So I like, when you watched the trailer, you kind of knew what you were getting into. There weren't any like twists, turns, that like surprises in the film that you weren't necessarily expecting before you saw it. So in terms of that, it definitely wasn't anything like too unpredictable. It was very predictable, not greatly fleshed out for what they could have done. Having AI, having that like topic, they definitely had the potential. They had the material to expand, do like some bigger stuff that they didn't do. And I don't know if it was necessarily because like the budget or whatever, or like just what they wanted to tell. Maybe they told exactly what they wanted to tell with the story. But there were definitely opportunities to expand certain aspects of the film that they didn't end up doing that could have made it even a stronger film than it ended up being. Um, but overall, I think that it definitely, for people who like this type of film, it definitely satisfies for what it is. So it's definitely worth a watch. And um, yeah, it didn't do as good as some other films, but or even like in the genre as some films that it's similar to from the past. It's not as strong as those films. And I think part of it is because of just like the writing story. It's not as well built overall as those other films. But yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. And I think that people who like these types of films, like this concept, the concept is there. So it's definitely something that I would recommend to people who would typically watch these types of movies. It's definitely worth the watch, I think. So with that, we are going to wrap up today's episode. So Mercy, it definitely was an interesting film. I think it was definitely promoted to be like the first like big film of the year, and it wasn't. There were some other films that came out recently that definitely had stronger openings. Um, and will probably have stronger runs than Mercy had. It was released in IMAX 3D, so like it definitely they released it to with intention of it being like the next big blockbuster. I think it's Chris Pratt's first like film at all after Guardians 3, maybe. I don't think he's done anything since then. So yeah, it was like his big comeback, and it definitely missed the mark in a lot of ways. But it like I said, it definitely, if you're into this type of film, it definitely will satisfy you. It does have a very predictable plot, and like you know what you're getting into, but it definitely, in those terms, it hits the mark. So yeah, it's definitely worth the watch, and I'd like to know what you think, how it compares to other films in like that genre for you, and your thoughts on the film if you enjoyed it or not. Um, so, like today's episode, comment with your thoughts, and we're on social media. Follow us if you're not already: Twitter, Instagram, or X. And thank you for watching. Thank you for your support as always, and we will see you next time.